Some days I wake up excited. Other days I feel behind before I even open my laptop. What if the biggest thing holding you back isn't what you don't know, but what you refuse to unlearn? What if the key to accelerating your growth in this AI world is letting go of old habits and mindsets? In this video, I want to share my experience so far, the emotions, the challenges, and above all, how to move faster in understanding this new AI era. To explore this further, I'm flying to Boston. The InfoQ Dev Summit will be a chance to listen, learn, and reflect, and also to hear from others who are also figuring out what it means to unlearn and adapt. You know, I've been in tech for over 20 years. Back then, growing meant knowing as much as possible, as deeply as possible. You stayed late, got up early, read documentation front to back. You debugged for hours because no one had posted the answer yet on a forum. Communication was low, mostly asynchronous, I would say. You would drop your question into a forum and just wait, hoping someone out there in some part of the world had seen the same problem. But now we have to rethink everything. Not just new tools, not just new frameworks, but a new mindset. I have several questions currently in my head, but the main one is, what exactly do we need to unlearn in order to embrace this new AI era? What do we need to keep learning in order to use these skills alongside with AI and make the best out of it? What kind of habits or learnings we need to unlearn because they're not useful anymore, or better, we need to reshape in order to make successful this transition? AI isn't a tool anymore, it's a collaborator. Think about Perplexity, ChatGPT, all the code assistants. And that changes everything. Let's start with saying AI has already changed how we learn. It translates languages and help us to bounce ideas and think differently about things that maybe we didn't consider. Take coding, for example. AI doesn't think like we do. It doesn't understand context or intention the way a human does. That means it's on us to guide it carefully, to make sure it's not just working code, but code worth keeping. Because the real challenge isn't just writing code fast, it's making sure it's code we can live with. I didn't get it right since day one. I remember a log session with a code assistant where we constantly lose track of the decision that we made. And therefore, I had to think differently. I had to embrace a new way of thinking, and my common beliefs didn't work anymore. Plus, I discovered that LLMs are not really good on reading your mind. Therefore, we need to approach differently. That's when I came across a talk at QCon London by Birgitta Bockler.
There's no guarantee that they will do what you want all the time, especially as your sessions get longer. So the longer, the fuller the context window gets, even if it's like a model that does support a very large context window, it will have less attention on all of the details that are actually there.
And something clicked. She talked about keeping track of design decisions as part of the development process in a markdown file to provide context quickly to Code Assistant. And I thought, why not do the same with my project? So I started crystallizing my goals, constraints, and design choices in a simple markdown file. And when the assistant lost context, I just pointed it back to that file. It started with frustration, but it led to something better. A new practice that actually makes the assistant more useful and makes the theme stronger.
I'm Nimisha Astagiri. I also go by Nim. I'm based in the Boston area. I work at ThoughtWorks. I've been at ThoughtWorks, will be almost 4 years later this year. I'm one of the global leaders working on scaling AI. I'm also part of the global Doppler team at ThoughtWorks that publishes our technology radar twice a year. But with AI now, it's kind of different. You kind of need to step back and say, wait, wait, wait. Um, what do I really need to know? Maybe you need to create instead a decision tree, for instance, for your organization and your business. Think through what are those main decisions we make, and then step back and completely rethink your business workflows with AI in the mix. Or even as developers, we've been thinking about websites and scaling websites for millions and billions of users. But there too is the websites as we've developed and all of the ways that we've been trained and been practicing, creating wireframes and this and that too is disrupted when it's human driven, human initiated. But now with AI, we want humans in the loop, but not necessarily always manually directed by humans.
Studies have shown that a significant amount of AI-generated code ends up deleted within a few commits. We don't refactor anymore like in the past. And that means there is potentially a lot of duplication or implementation that are not as we would have written by our hands. AI is accelerating what we already knew, but it can't replace the judgment, experience, and craftsmanship required to create quality software that lasts. Hence, I believe our role is changing. It's no longer just about writing code that works, it's about learning how to instruct an assistant to do the job well and collaborate with us. Prompting becomes a skill. Reviewing becomes a discipline. We need to know how to spot when AI is stuck in a loop, missing the bigger picture, or generating code that clashes with existing libraries. But less experienced developers? They might trust the AI's output a little too much. That's why strong engineering practices matter more than ever. Things like 2 reviewers per pull request, building fundamental knowledge before learning on a code assistant, and staying intentional about what gets merged. And for senior engineers, their role is evolving too. AI will free up their time, so coaching the next generation might be part of the job. Although not everything is changing, the core principles of software architecture and engineering principles are still valid. If you understand programming languages, design patterns, software architecture, you can apply all of these knowledge with AI in order to design better system and better software. Those skills don't become obsolete. Even in the age of AI, you still need to know how to design properly a system that is reliable, secure, and so on. Let's take architecture, for example. Architecture isn't just about code, it's about how we design a social technical system. It mirrors how we communicate, the skills we rely on, how to shape our engineering practices, and so on. And AI, it can understand all of that. These are socio-technical decisions, and AI struggles with that. No matter how much context you feed it, deciding on service granularity, code volatility, assigning business and architecture characteristics specifics for a system, drawing boundaries or aligning tech with team dynamics require human judgment. Because the context isn't just hard to explain, it's often lived, not documented. AI can assist, suggest, and definitely inspire, but it can't replace the deep, messy human understanding that comes from building real systems with real people over time. At the end of the day, we all have the same mission to figure out how and where to use these tools well. But we don't do it alone. We do it in the way we always have, by learning from each other. Tribal knowledge. The oldest way humans have learned by sharing stories, lessons, and mistakes. Developers from different backgrounds are putting their learnings out there, what worked, what didn't. And we remix those ideas, reshape them, build on top of them. Our primary sources, books, videos, and especially conferences. In this AI-driven world that moves incredibly fast, we need to factor in the most valuable currency we have, time. Conferences compress time. In just a couple of days, you are exposed to hundreds, if not thousands of people, all facing different challenges, making sense of new tech in their own way and sharing the patterns that help them. It's a shortcut to better questions, new ideas, fresh perspectives, fast discovery, and maybe even a nudge in the right direction.
Hi, I'm Vivek Gupta. I'm the director of the AI rotational program at Microsoft. take advantage of the tools, use it as an assistant, but don't forget to learn the fundamentals because it is often wrong. And for the time being, you can't rely on it to be 100% correct.
That's why I believe conferences are more valuable than ever, because tribal knowledge is still the fastest way to learn how to use this new technology well. It's a natural scale mechanism that we use for ages to grow our society and culture. And this is why unlearning matters. Because if we approach this new era with yesterday's instincts, we risk applying old thinking to new tools. We might over-engineer where we should experiment, or trust too soon where caution is needed. Unlearning isn't about forgetting what we know. It's about questioning which parts still serve us, and which ones silently hold us back.
My name is Ricardo Ferreira, and I'm here in the QCon Dev Summit Conference in Boston, having lots of good time. And I work currently for Redis, and I kind of lead the developer team, developer relations team there. The measure of temperature that I use is that when I'm kind of having to have lots of back and forth with the LLM about something that, in my idea, I create an expectation that should be a fairly simple answer, right? So that's where I kind of try to step back and say, either I'm going to rethink my question, or I'm going to give up entirely and look up for other resources. So by the time I feel this amount of back and forth about something that I believe that should be really simple, that's where people call this sometimes a hallucinations, right? And that's where I kind of set the line about, okay, this is not helping. This tool that has helped me a lot with this job.
AI conferences are becoming mainstream, not just for researchers, but for everyday engineers, leaders, and builders trying to make sense of this shift. It's a chance to go deeper, real-world use cases, tough questions, practical patterns, not just hype. In December, there will be the first QCon AI conference, and I really hope to be there and discover the learnings from the community shared in just a few days. In my opinion, it's an unmissable event. These few days have been a reminder that we are not alone in this shift. Everyone here is asking the same questions. How do we adapt? What do we let go of? And what do we hold onto, no matter what changes? The real skill now is knowing how to think, how to learn, and probably even more, how to unlearn. What about my tough days? I still have them. And sometimes goes well, and sometimes goes so-so. But it's fine, because now I have a community that is helping me, my habits, and new knowledge that I can leverage in order to understand better what to unlearn during this journey on discovering AI. And for you, what would be the next thing that you need to unlearn?